That was the shot of literature. She, la littérature, literature, she's a she in French. Ever, that's her name, still here, always here at the end. As soon as there is end, abyss, she will always have been here. Literature at the end, bringing about, coming about, giving place and taking place, for re-beginning when the life vessel sinks, when in 12 verses and 10 minutes of the tempest, all is lost. We are lost. Everything is finished. Quick, clear off, next scene, as the crew of HMS Shakespeare do, when the tempest leviathans them. She, the ship, is a she in English. Bosun, lay her a hold, set her 2 courses, off to sea, lay her off. Enter mariners, wet. All lost, to prayers, all lost, pray her off. Bosun, what, must our mouths be cold? Gonzalo, the king and prince at prayers, let's assist them, for our case is theirs. That's the opening of the Tempest. Off with the world. Die Welt ist fort. Ich muss dich tragen. That's her, this Ich, who says these words, I must carry you, in Paul Celan's language, that do not console, that save and carry, all is lost, and 1 second later we awake a survivor at the shore of an island Shakespeare never had to name because it's literature herself, lifeboat theatre, emergency theatre. Enter Prospero with his quill staff and his magic cloak with the staff, and Miranda. Enter, writing with reading. Prosopopoeia. I, literature, lift the world with 8 words. Fort, die Welt ist, ich, dich, tragen muss. With 8 words, a tiny poem, a few syllables, a world group. 9 times, in the last 9 years, I have been at the last end of the world. Death attacks. Each time, the end was coming with its slow lightning. The end lasts, climbs to reach the living like an inexorable tide. During the slow tempest, first one cries, adieu! Then one writes, one writes. The terrible Thursday of the cruelest month, when fate tore my father from me from one instant to the next, and at the same time half my heart, and the entire ground of the earth, when there were only wounds and fright. I was 10 years old. The February violets were about to bloom. I clutched on to a notebook, and literature began its work, plumbing up the abyss. I was annihilated. All is lost, say the word, and its polyphony. In my father's garden that Thursday, the gods were performing the phoenix and the turtle. A volley of words descended on the flower beds and the mimosas. Everything was cries and music. I cried out, encore! Levon! I cried, papa! In French. When a life is taken from us, you will have noticed, we cry out the name of the cherished being, we conjure it, we repeat it, in place of all the words of language we name and call, we endlessly ring out, Mama, Papa! We stab the emptiness with a unique name, we multiply it infinitely, to change the nothingness into music. We hammer the iron silence with our chanted names. Eurydice! Maman! We cry out the being who does not respond. We shout in her place. Calling chases away the silence, contradicts the capital punishment that death pronounces. We call the being who is not here. We hold her back by the fringes of her being, by the letters of her name. We pray, we cry, Dieu. We create God, Dieu, nothingness. And the prayer answers itself. The prayer. The invention of literature, like the invention of drawing by de Boutade, or the invention of writing, is an urgent defense against pillaging, self-massacre, forgetting, against our own autoimmunity, our terrible system of adaptation, our awful submission to reality, our detestable spiritual economy, thrift. You're dead. I'll pinch your world, I'm taking your breath away, it's over, done for, finished, says mortality. No, I cry. Now I cried. I do not capitulate. What is finished is not finished. What is done and cannot be undone can be undone. I take the French word néant and I turn it into its opposite, néant. Ah, you'll say to me, my English-speaking friends, but my language does not know this word néant. My English only knows nothingness, it's not the same. But they, you musicians of the English language, have the extraordinary luck of the word done. And it occurs to me that the great English symphony must have begun with a blow of done. From Beowulf to John Donne, from Shakespeare to Joyce, the memory of English rings with those claps of glas, whose tolling Derrida brought to our ears with its infinite meanings in French, done, done. Donne dies and resuscitates in Donne's, John Donne's Donne, just as the fichu of Walter Benjamin's dream, as he lays dying, is transformed by the magic of French into fichu, the scarf. The scarf turns poem and subsequently dream of immortality for Derrida. In the land of lost lands, where texts germinate, where all is lost, all is fichu. A fichu is also fichu, otherwise. A text is always fichu, done, more or less. In this land where the ruins dream, where they dream of the one who will sublimate, relieve them, there lives the genie of metamorphosis. The last fichu, Talit. Literature is that sublime divinity of transformation that always busies itself around the same tomb, the same secrets. The sun Anatole's tomb for Mallarmé, Morella's tomb for Poe, the tomb for Julien Sorel's head, Cleopatra's tomb, Felix Nussbaum's Stolpersteine. Rise up, dead ones, and live otherwise. Dead ones, rise and tell me about your death. Mother, Horatio, raise me from my ashes. No sooner had I launched the call here with pen on paper than I heard Agamemnon's voice giving Ulysses this potent testimony in the Odyssey, Song 11. As I lay dying, I tried to raise my hands. The woman with the dog's eyes would not close my eyes as I descended into Hades. How we forget. I had forgotten the voice choked with sobs of the first returning king ghost. I had forgotten the horrified ancestor of the semi-dead who cannot reach the other side, deprived of the attributes of a well-executed death. I had forgotten that before Aldebrandron of As I Lay Dying, Faulkner's As I Lay Dying, and before disconsolate Hamlet, there was the first king of literature's assassinated tribe. And this is the fate of the badly dead, those with botched deaths. They wander in a perpetual dying, and their voices, which depict their pain, wait on Lethe's key for a poetic ear to receive their plea. Forget me not. Add not a death to my elimination. Write my name. do not erase me from the book. You who live later on, imagine the unimaginable, write my story, be the guardians and the cantors of the breath that was stolen from me. Signed, Agamemnon, Hamlet father, Hamlet son, Alexandrin, Derrida, and others. It has been 40 years since I heard the bitter words of Alexandrin, since I completely forgot the wild cries of the black geese that words are for her. And now, the bitter cries tear the green cloth of forgetting, shatter the window that stops me hearing the last words of my dying father. What a mystery. There are chains of words that possess a power of resurrection, words, perhaps names, that have gentle fingers, that touch the eyelids of our soul, with lips closed, and in an instant we awake just in time to answer the telephone and hear my father, my mother, my beloved, feeling abandoned, erased. 59. Hello? Hello? List, oh List, it's me. Can you hear me? I'm thy father's spirit. I'm the wandering voice of your mother. Have you got paper? Write quickly. I have 59 things to tell you. 59, you say? 59 verses, strophes, chapters. 59 is the number of chapters of the voices of As I Lay Dying. Derrida's circumfession is exhaled in 59 periods. In 59 verses, all the horror of the world is poured by the ghost into Hamlet's junior's ear. Brief let me be. Adieu, adieu, Hamlet. Remember me. 59. 59? One day I will write a book with 59 pages. And on the 59th page, I will say, is 59 literature's secret number? 59 has the charm of an apocalyptic password. From Homer to Joyce to Thomas Bernard, perhaps, from Dante to Beckett, have the poets perhaps been whispering the password to each other? Is this recurrence a cipher, a secret message, or a marvelous coincidence? Look and ask Psalm 59. It occurs to me that what enchants me in literature is the insistence, the returning from century to century and from language to language of the beating of a heart that death does not extinguish. We die, and our wonder will survive. And it's this melody, this rhythm, this sentence of 59 words, beats, that makes us feel there is something stronger than nothingness, less vain than our short life. And what enchants us is that this rhythm of our fear, of our suffering, the stubbornness of the dead to write and describe their death, is always exactly the same. It is life's heartbeat that hears itself living, and that passing from one author's work to the next perpetuates, never dies. Everything is destroyed. Nothing is lost. I thought you were dead, my love, but you had only passed into another life. Death, be not proud. When one man dies, one chapter is not torn out of the book, but translated into a better language. John Donne, Meditation 59. All those that I love to hear writing, had their experience of revelation. We die, we lose our life, we find it again. What joy, what light-heartedness. That is what happened to Montaigne, Rousseau, Dostoevsky. They were all pardoned at the last minute, let off the hook. I must ask Stendhal, I think to myself. I must ask Melville, Celan, what 59 means to them. In the meantime, I asked my son, the mathematician, where is 59? And he immediately responds, 59? It's... If I had the time, I'd tell you how 59 is one less than 60, and what is hidden in the fateful difference between these numbers. But I don't have time to tell you here, because the law of our conference says this lecture must not last more than 60 minutes. To air out the chamber of the crime, this is my dream. Like Proust and Sophocles or Milton before him, we also want to air out the chamber of the crime. We want to air out the bedroom of the crime. There is a bedroom for the crime. In the first chapter, which serves as the first scene, there will always have been a bedroom and a crime. A bedroom for the crime, a haunted bedroom, suffocating, too many curtains, too many wardrobes, filled with too many black velvet coats with pink satin linings, too many armchairs without outstretched arms and curved backs, where literature germinates. Whether I turn around the bed, the body of Staret Zosema, the Hiero monk saint with the stinking corpse, you remember, or Ligeia's body, whether I lean over my dead son's bed or my dead lover's bed, whether it's Stephen Dedalus' mother who is passing on, or whether I meditate on love in Bergoglio's miserable bedroom, the heart of the scene is always the same kernel of the poem, and it's always the bedroom where Socrates lives his death before death, like a long monologue in Hamlet. Literature plays its scene behind thought, on the other side, which is accessed by going through a broken window partially patched with a piece of green percale. Here we are in the bedroom of the crime. It's always in the same place, on the floor, above the family dining room. The same passions, the same thoughts fill it, the same furies. You killed me! I will kill you! Says the subject. You imbeciles! Cries young Santeuil. Enter anger. It whispers the unbearable truths with great liberty. In the literature world, it's sovereign, whereas in the ordinary world, it is disciplined and punished. At last, it cries, here I can spew forth my levers and spit out my insults. It is I who cause, it's I who dare. I'm the furious captain of literature, I attack. I direct the Iliad, I destroy everything, and I'm adored. All human beings, beginning with my readers, or thus, are joyously thankful to me. I incarnate their death drives. To kill one's father, one's mother, the king, the child, this is my work and my mission. I'm there to represent massacres and frights that jostle each other in the enclosure of dreams. I make you enjoy your throat slittings. I am the irritated spirit of Yahweh. It is I who suggest to Job his imprecations, to Moses his bad thoughts. What a pleasure when Jean Santeuil yells, "You two imbeciles," to Monsieur and Madame in the middle of a literary luncheon. When Stendhal is transported by bloody hatred, it's my doings. I am responsible for all the madnesses that Shakespeare sings. I'm the cold and sadistic law that condemns young Kafka each time he desires. Dostoevsky storms, that's me. Don Quixote, 120 furies, very me. Literature storms, it falls upon us, it offers us hospitality. Here, in the psychic space, where anger is acknowledged, where blinded Polyphemus roars, and Ulysses laughs at the mutilations he inflicts, where everything is Ahab's dark over-intensity and hate for Moby Dick. The roars pierce the air. Here we are frightful. In the bedroom of the crime, we're cruel, we're wounded animals, urges to tear to pieces, tears to pieces. No use denying it. A young girl of 19 surrounded by poets, is the only one to take Polyphemus' side. Her name is Mary Shelley. Never has so much hatred and anger coursed through the universe as in Frankenstein's book. Yes, literature sings the praises of anger. It celebrates the divine fury to which it owes its existence. Anger is always the same unchained, chained, whether it yells in Greek or Aramean or Russian, it is always the same tragedy. The only difference is the furnishings of the bedroom. Depending on whether the crime with punishment, the double suffering takes place at Wuthering Heights or on the Pequod or in a squalid slum of Peter. Literature is anger transformed into rhythms, hymn. Because we insist on safeguarding this force that is stronger than we are, on finding pleasure in our suffering, on keeping what we have lost, on tasting the bitter herb's taste of the kiss drying on our open lips. My mother no longer spoke. All of a sudden she said two words. Trop vieux, she muttered. Too old. Ungendered, unsexed, too late, the last poem, naturally untranslatable. She was 103. Now I closed my lips on her temple, hollow, like the beginning of a tomb, and with these miserable remains of provisions, I still had enough to write. We have withdrawn to Grenzland, the border zone between solitude and life in common. Dieses Grenzland zwischen Einsamkeit und Gemeinschaft, of which Kafka speaks in his journal. That is where I write. I'm beneath the volcano, and yet I tremble with cold. It was in September 2001. The world was collapsing. Die Welt war fort. So Derrida invoked the great fichu destinies of Benjamin and Adorno. He already felt he himself was fichu, done. That he was fichu and fichu and fichu, darted in the flesh of a dream of literature. Dreaming of going further than philosophy, and already hearing the bell toll for him. Done, done, Adonai, Adonai, ding, done. Literature is lived in haste. Oh, the fear of dying before finishing one's nail. Proust's fear and Kafka's fear before being done. Is he calling me? Wonders the pupil Abram in the class where the master calls the name of the one elected for the crown of laurels, and the master, we know, is death. Or is it another Abram, the one Kafka conceives for himself? A certain Abram Kafka, a small shopkeeper in Yehuda market, a guy from a shtetl in Babel's short story. Is it for me the bell tolled? Death's letter has departed. It is searching for its addressee. And my life is a flight in the face of the letter. While fleeing, I have just the time to write das Urteil, the verdict. The whole time I'm running before the letter, before the law, I contest the address. Is it me? I don't recognize myself with that homonymic name. It lost. And during my destinerance, I know and do not want to know I know and fear knowing that in the end I will avow what I deny, that I am the thee to whom the bell tolls. Then I will throw myself from the bridge from which long ago I threw the most beautiful love letters in the world. I confess that I had wanted to be done with literature as a prophet of posthumous life. But in the end, I hear it murmur in my own ear. Why send a messenger to ask if my monotonous cry is really addressed to you? You very well know that each time I toll, at each unique end, it is you who is struck. Each nail celebrates you. You die in each death. Towards the end, you fall more and more frequently. One by one, our friends descend to Hades. Our eyes are more numerous on the other side than on this side. You just did a pastiche of my Meditation 59, says Don. I wrote the first version for you. Already in 1624, you were destined to receive in your turn the mission of translating the cry of the knell in one of the world's languages. On February the 12th, 1948, the first messenger to bring news of the death of the Emperor of Life, my father, was my brother Phipps, the dog. He shouted in dog language, "Dad, Dad, Dad, Daddy, Dad!" And I translated those cries into French, first text. It was in December 1964 in Manhattan. I had just died in Central Park. I had just read Celan's poems, and in the night, abandoned by the world, I blindly scribbled the first orders dictated by literature. I no longer knew who I was. God no longer had a name. The squirrels were half dead. With their mouths full of earth, they said, "Nevermore." Perhaps they were raven squirrels. I no longer remember in which language I wrote. Perhaps it was English. Yet when Derrida, my first reader, received these threads from Manhattan, they were sold in French. Maybe they were translated or converted during the crossing of the Acheron, or else in German. In any case, no one could say exactly who had written it. The author is Legion. I was one of them, that's all. Doubt not that the bell tolls for you. Doubt that it is for you here, yes, you, to sign that thing. As soon as we write, that is, believe we are writing, we're gripped with doubt. We lose ourselves. We're no longer ourselves. Ourselves we do not owe. We are those criminals who are always innocent of their actions. We regain our lost spirits, sitting broken before a sea of sheets of paper, of insane confessions, of traces of tears and blood. We cast a glance at this chaos, at this carnage, and we're stupefied. Did I cause that now? And we overcome with horror and admiration, which proves that it isn't me, but another me, a crazy person, a nightmare, a terrible mare who gallops us, and we know not where at night, who are unleashed in the back of my mind, in the sleeping house, and who have or has committed such violent and naked extravagances, without reserve, without shame. You killed your mother. You were dreaming. It's just the same thing. In the other reality, you killed the herd of rams with white hooves, unfortunate Ajax. Julien, you killed a great deer, and your father, you killed Monique, Augustine. Unfortunate Ajax, it's the same, and it's worse. At 5 o'clock, as soon as I leave my kingdom, my night kingdom, sans light, sans death, as soon as the daylight reality ravens toll the world's knell, throw me into the emptiness whose mouth has no lips, while repeating their three-note tune, nevermore, because death has never finished biting our ears, its hunger cannot be appeased. Right away already literature responds. It defies the end. It slips away evasively, like Eve, my mother, evading the end with her 102 years in her backpack. Here's how it happens. Take the day Derrida's, for instance, last mobile phone breaks down. His last words, we'll find another way of phoning when we're dead. Literature is the anti-death telephone, the magic that establishes the link between us, the orphaned Orpheuses, and our dear beings who are apparently invisible but present, according to the wish one expresses. For the miracle of resurrection to happen, we only have to move our fingers towards the magic rectangular parallelepiped we call by the equally magic name of book telephone. Then we hear the sound that comes from afar and near. We need only, so that the miracle may be accomplished, apply our lips to the magic orifice and invoke the vigilant virgins, as Proust says, to whose voices we listen every day without ever coming to know their faces, and who are our guardian angels in the dizzy realm of darkness, whose portals they so jealously keep, the all-powerful, by whose intervention the absent rise up at our side, without our being permitted to set eyes on them. First, we cry on the telephone, hello, hello, hey, Ken? Cry, aye. Then we write. We translate into the ultra-silence of writing the sharp and short cries of reality. Literature is for yelling at length, pushing cries all the way to music. The right to literature, or the right to cries that reality of the community forbid us. In the family we are full of muffled cries. We are muzzled wolves. We're sitting at a table where our parents are playing cards. Why don't you play cards, my son? Why do you refuse to be a Mitspieler? My parents were playing cards. I sat there alone, totally alien. My father said that I ought to play, or at least watch the game. I talked myself out somehow. What was the meaning of this refusal, repeated so many times since childhood? What was offered to me in this invitation to play was community, social life to a certain extent. I could have brought myself to participate as I was asked. Not well, but ably enough. The games would probably not have even have bored me too much, yet I refused. Claudius, how is it that the clouds still hang on you, Hamlet? Come, play with us. Gertrude, good Hamlet, cast thy nightly colour off. Come, watch the game, and let thine eye look like a friend on Denmark. Do not forever with thy veiled lips seek for thy noble father in the dust. Thou know'st it's common, all that lives must die, passing through nature to eternity. Hamlet, aye, madam, it is common, aye. If it be, why seems it so particular with thee? We cannot respond. We would vomit a volcano's worth of cries of pain and horror. We write in our journal, we read the book of ourselves. One of my treasures is a fabulous text that sits in my hand like a magic parrot. It's a nano-tragedy. It contains the keys to all of Proust's work. It's his filial feelings of a parricide. This brief and terrible text appeared in 1907 in the Figaro newspaper in the guise of a tabloid news item with all of Sophocles and all of Dostoevsky inside. I take the keys, they open all the texts. We have all killed and cried. We all parricides, and we have felt in us the flames of the tender and burning filial sentiments of a parricide. With what did Proust feed the book he was dreaming of? With cries, and café au lait, or tea. He recognized literature by the tune of its lamentation. He loved Chateaubriand for the monotony of his owl's cry. Aye, yes. Who would ever have thought that this name would so truly foretell the pains that are my lot, complains Ajax. Ajax, Aias, do you remember? The Ajax of Sophocles says that his name is his destiny. Aias, alas, Ajax is us. No, you don't remember. Alas, we have forgotten, alas. He cries, he vomits blood and sound for hundreds of verses. He complains to himself that his unequal valor has been forgotten. He who is, since Achilles has died, the first, the greatest, the strongest, his hostile companions treat him as a second, dishonor him, prefer the wily Ulysses to him, castrate him. From then on, he will be eternally debased and forgotten, and we forget him as well. 3,000 years later, we diminish him. He cries his name of pain, Aias! Who remembers Aias? The man disappears, the pain remains. We register his bitterness. Thereafter his cries are heard and reignited by Samson agonists, by Dostoevsky, by Proust, by Mandelstam. Cries travel. The boat makes land on many foreign coasts, and immediately the hymn to desire and regret is raised. You have killed me. How short life will have been. Forget me not. 2 months. You have already forgotten me? Not only did I suffer from dying of death, but in addition I suffered death by dying of forgetfulness. I had found in Proust's notebook, 59, an injunction that I took for myself. Find the rhythm of the double suffering. That's it. One woe for me, one woe for you. I suffer from your suffering and my suffering. Now the other day, sitting next to the electric bed that has replaced her normal bed, and where my mother lived this year laid out like in a boat rented from the hunter Gracchus, which makes an electronic wheeze at regular intervals, I was reading Ajax. That was when I had the surprise of discovering the double suffering. Proust later rented from Sophocles. Says Ajax's wife, Tecmessa, and which were the choice done, thine wouldst thou prefer, to afflict thy friends, and feel delight thyself, or to share sorrow, grieving with a grief. Chorus, the twofold woe, lady, would be the greater. The idea that the first groan against the double suffering was formulated and questioned in 440 before Christ transports me. What? The thought that wounded a soul 2,500 years ago is here perceptibly in my office, in my papers, in my little memory. Yes, no. However, yes. Ajax is no longer, nothing more. Today, 2013, 2015, 2020, Derrida is no longer Derrida 2000. You're no longer 2000, you're no longer Helen Cixous 2000, says my son. There's not a single atom of your body that was part of your body 15 years ago. And yet, there is a you that is you. Memory is stronger than death. Materially inscribed in you there lives a text that was telegraphed to you from Homer, care of Sophocles. Memory outlives the matter in which it is inscribed. Atoms of the genius of Shakespeare and of Freud, musics, you're here. And mixed with Philias and Aletheas, my cats, purring, you surround me in an organization that we do not know how to think, at least today. Between 440 before Christ and 2020. That's how far as I can go. Every poet discovers rather quickly the severe, rigorous truth that there is a revival in ruin, happiness in misfortune, allégresse, as we say in French, bliss. My impotence as the secret of my power whispers to my ear the most powerful of thinkers. My weakness and my faults are the secrets of my genius. Writing is the gift of discovering a deep link between two ideas, that embrace and overturn each other. It is when I'm most poorly, when I have no strength or ideas in my head, that this I, whom I sometimes recognize living inside me, perceives it, just as it is often in the autumn, when there are more flowers or leaves, there are no more flowers or leaves, that one can smell the deepest harmonies in the landscape. The moment this I in me says he's annihilated, he escapes. Old Chateaubriand, our likeness, our neighbor, how he fills Proust with emotion. He too slips away when he's annihilated. What an ecstatic horror to discover then that way we can live without life. Wonderful horror of life that most desires when it desires no more. Pain does not kill in an instant, says Proust, since he didn't die upon seeing his assassinated mother before him, since he did not die upon hearing his dying mother say to him, like the Princess André in Tolstoy, "Henri, what have you done with me? What have you done to me? You've killed me." Each time it's the same wrenching surprise. We do not die from pain. Your death, which kills me, engenders a me in me that is stronger than I am. Your whole bedroom kills me. That sounds like Madame de Sévigné. But I remain attached to it, clutching your ghost that flees me and that I retain. I want to burn there. I want to taste the pain all the way to ashes. I want it to end. I want to escape. The pain grinds and bites me to the marrow. I cry, "Stop!" No, continue. It wasn't I who cried stop. It was the little fearful I inside me, the one that Marcel calls the instinct of conservation, as he's being tortured by the sentence, "Mademoiselle Albertine est partie." Mademoiselle Albertine is gone. Ah, that instinct, that troll, that imp, that animal guided by the need to live, simply to live. It is he who searches at full speed for the first tranquilizers to apply to my burns. And these first 8 bandages are not valuable, are sheets of paper on which bewitching sentences are displayed, chants that hypnotize and charm the suffering and keep it alive as life. Right where the sun has been silenced, the heart-rending hymn of darkness arises. Are there any more beautiful melodies than those nocturnes where we hear the voices of those whose daylight has been stolen, whose eyes have been gouged out, whose light has been confiscated? The atrocious and adorable cry of Samson the agonist, "Oh, dark, 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 amid the blaze of noon, irrecoverably dark." Ajax, "Oh, darkness, now my daylight, oh, gloom of Erebus, for me the brightest light there is, take me now to live with you." Homer was blind, we know. It helped him scrutinize the darkness of the heart. Shakespeare was also blind on Thursdays and Saturdays. And when the wind was north-northwest, Joyce nourished his glaucoma. All poets are blind, so as better to see in the great depth of the soul. And if they're not blind, then they're Jews, as Tsvetaeva reminds us. They're separated otherwise, deprived of the common sunlight, and condemned to invent another freedom. El que te dije. When I read, quote, "I cannot for my soul remember how, when, or even precisely where, I first became acquainted with the Lady Ligeia. Long years have since elapsed, and my memory is feeble. Or perhaps I cannot now bring those points to mind, because in truth, the character of my beloved, her rare learning, everything made their way into my heart by paces so steadily and stealthily progressive that they have been unnoticed and unknown. Of her family, I have surely heard her speak. That it is of a remotely ancient date cannot be doubted. And now, when I write, a recollection flashes upon me that I have never known the paternal name of her who was my friend. I would in vain attempt to portray the majesty, the quiet grace of her demeanor, or the incomprehensible lightness and elasticity of her footfall. She came and departed as a shadow. When she places her hand upon my shoulder, I know that literature has begun. Indeed, I already don't know who is writing, who writes while trembling, who writes in the place of whom, who in me writes to whom. Is it you, or my father, or my children? In Kafka, is it the other Kafka, or Alte Kafka? In Rousseau, the young mother-deprived Jean-Jacques vituperates, or after Maman's death, Proust writes letters that his parents would have written. Derrida writes letters his parents would never have written. Montaigne sows La Boétie's soul to his soul. When I read these texts, these testaments, whose reference slip away while advancing, it seems to me that I recognize them. It seems to me as if I wanted and did not want to read what I'm reading, as if I didn't want and wanted to say what I'm saying. And that is literature. The uncertain, that does not lie, the scene that gives the undecidable its due. Who is speaking? Who is calling? Qui parle de vivre? Who is talking about living? Asks Derrida's voice, rising to high pitch to hold back an indignation. The response? The one I told you about, el que te dije. Who? You know who? It's you know who. Ah, him. Oh, how we forget. There he is, the ghost. To insert here or perchance elsewhere. It occurs to me that in the book of Manuel, you remember, Libro de Manuel, the manual of how to make everyday life become literature, written by my old accomplice, Julio Cortázar. He was called or was hidden through antonomasia or pseudonym by the name of El que te dije, and he was always there, a crucial, main and self-effacing character, the very witness. This essential add-on is all the more delicate in that by ascribing him, one forgets him, because by function, he or she is the doorman or doorkeeper to the infernal paradise, the guardian of the law of literature, the threshold of space, the Moses who conducts the people of books to publication, the one who argues on the mountain with God and below with the herd, the one who receives the messages from above, transcribes them onto tablets, transmits them to the readers, expecting that the forever exasperated tribe will treat the magic tables like illegible rags. I'm speaking here, as you will have noticed, of this being who knows not what she or he does. Elle, whom I call the purloined author, l'auteur volé, the stolen author. Volé like the letter that you write, he writes, in the folds of which he writes himself a letter that he or she reads as Hamlet reads in the book of himself, herself, desperately trying to understand why, how, not to be what he is, why it seems I always do the opposite of what I think I want to be obliged to do, how I set out in the direction opposite to my direction, how I take the side I disapprove of, why am the one I am not, I is not me, I take the road to my own ruin. That's not what I wanted to say, that's not the one I wanted to kill, I'm not in my place, it's you, madman, mad me, who move me and act something out that then I sign. To write, thus to go off in search of the young me who sings and cries in me to distance oneself from oneself, and to feel oneself with the distance becoming forest, desert, characters of another century, of another book, becoming a bedroom on the walls of which, under the eaves, live subjects live, people of creatures who are the actors of one's work. We play amongst winds and in cemeteries. What are you doing here? What have you done? Who will you have been? Alas, poor Oedipus, when one writes without knowing it, one is an criminel, a writer criminal. But what does Oedipus mean? Did you mean to say Orpheus? I don't know. We say Oedipus to say Ajax, to not say Othello, to say Julien, Julien l'Hospitalier, but there is the other Julien as well, Julien Sorel, to say Marcel, Elias Swann, to say the one, he or she, who writes the letter I steal from myself, that steals from him, that flies, that blinds me, that I try desperately to recover. It's a question of life or death. There has been an assassination. The body is here. Death is here. The dead woman is here. Someone has been killed. Someone has killed. Who? Who killed whom? Who killed me? Who put the pen in my head? Who struck me? Who blinded me? Who was killed in my night? One writes while advancing under a rain of questions with poisoned tips, needled by the first and last questions that the human being hurls into the empty space of destiny. I hear them resonate in my mother's last bedroom, when she again opens her eyes, another day split open in the wood of the 103rd year, and croaks, "Who am I? Where am I?" Helene, was ist los? What are they doing to me? Qu'est-ce qu'on me fait? What are you doing to me? My child! Henri, what have you done to me? Cries Madame von Blauenberg in Proust's little text. It is our great astonishment, the ghastly secret of life, how life brings us death, gives us death, how life makes us kill, gives us death for desert, for desert. The purloined author comes staggering out of this horrified astonishment, singing the praises of mystery and fright. There's only one crime. Everyone comes to confess it differently. But from Sophocles to Poe, from Poe to Baudelaire, when Baudelaire receives the letter that Blanchot countersigns, it is the same tragedy and the same destruction, because the terrible subject always surpasses its sayer. I did what I could not do. It wasn't me. It was not me who did it. I didn't. Who wrote this? Stendhal? Perchance Derrida or perchance Rousseau? If it wasn't Shem Joyce, it was Sean Joyce. My Chambleboy, my Freya, my fear, my Freya, my worse, my more than me. Was it you who said that literature begins where we no longer know who is writing? Or maybe was it Virginia Woolf? Was it the virgin or the wolf? Is it the lion or the python? Was it Montaigne or La Boétie, or was it me? Or Eve, my mother, for whom The bell tolled. Envoy, Ajax. And you, Helios, pull back those reins of yours, which flash with gold, then tell the story of my miseries, my destiny, to my old father, and tell it to the unhappy one who nursed me. For me to weep is useless. It's time to start the final act. O death, death, come now and watch in person. Yet I'll be seeing you on the other side, and there we can converse. And so do you. I make my final call. And to the sun, I'll never see that chariot anymore, O light, O sacred land of Salamis, my home, my father's sturdy hearth, and glorious Athens, whose race was bred, related to my own, and you rivers, you streams, you plains of Troy, I call on you. Farewell, you who have nurtured me. To you, Ajax now speaks his final words. Alas, Ajax, alas, the rest I'll say to those below in Hades. Ajax falls on his sword. Enter Hamlet. Hamlet, I'm dead, Horatio. You that look pale and tremble at this chance that are but mutes or audience to this act, had I but time, but we only have 59 minutes. As this fell sergeant Death is strict in his arrest, oh, I could tell you, but let it be. Horatio, I am dead. Thou livest. Report me and my cause aright to the unsatisfied. O God, Horatio, what a wounded name things standing thus unknown shall live behind me. Absent thee from felicity a while, and in this harsh world, draw thy breath in pain to tell my story. Oh, I die. I'm dead. I die. I cannot live to hear the news from England, but I do prophesy the election lights on Fortinbras. He has my dying voice. So tell him with occurrence, more or less, which have solicited. The rest is silence. Hamlet dies. Ajax dies. Enter literature silently. Enter Ceylon or Akhmatova or Vesos, a poet to dig the silence. Choral. We work, and that brings on more work. Where have I not walked? Where no place where I have searched has revealed to me where Ajax